Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth Ajadi, your host of 9 to 5 and everything in between. Today, we're diving into an industry that touches nearly every aspect of our lives: health insurance. It's an arena constantly evolving, influenced by everything from legislative changes to groundbreaking medical advancements, and even the everyday choices we make about our well being.
AI, just being as transformative as it is, that is absolutely going to transform, I think, our operation in the next 3 years.
Consider this: only 23% of employees worldwide are engaged at work, with 62% disengaged, leading to an estimated $8.9 trillion in lost productivity globally. Meanwhile, economic uncertainty weighs heavily, with employer health insurance costs surging 6% in 2023 and projected to rise further, impacting both company budgets and employee benefits. On top of that, 52% of frontline workers worry about layoffs due to economic shifts, and 74% anticipate a negative impact on their future earnings. This anxiety affects everything from job security to engagement, even as some data shows a rising sense of retention as employees stay put amidst market volatility.
You've got people who worry. People are worried about their job. In my experience, like when the internet came around, we all became a heck of a lot more efficient than we used to be. It doesn't mean jobs are going to go away.
To guide us through these complex currents, we have an exceptional guest, my mentor, Tom Dewey, the Chief Corporate Operations Officer at Medical Mutual. With a career spanning finance at EY, building thriving people and culture, driving strategic initiatives, and most recently, leading corporate operations, Tom possesses the unique 360-degree view of what it takes to lead a large organization.
Leaders, we can change ourselves, and make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position, we're putting our people in a position where they can come be honest to us.
Exactly. Get ready for insights that will empower any leader navigating their own industry's ripple effects. Hello, 9 to 5ers. I'm Elizabeth Ajadi, back with another episode of 9 to 5 and everything in between. We've been talking about ripple effects and how the shifts in the market impact consumer behavior and vice versa. Specifically, today we're going to be talking about leading through the tides, navigating people and operations amidst health insurance shifting sands. That's a mouthful. Basically, we're going to be talking about how to lead through change, specifically honing on the health insurance industry. Earlier in the season, we had a medical professional on the episode, and we talked about how changes in technology is impacting patient care and practice, and specifically telemedicine, and how that's shifting. And so now, talking to somebody that is on the payer side, the health insurance side, I think it would be a great dynamic, or sort of a close of the loop to that conversation that we had earlier in the season. Here's some things. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. About 23% of employees are engaged at work, 62% disengaged. And imagine leading through that type of situation where human capital is scarce, or at least quality human capital is scarce. You're looking at lost productivity, and statistics say we lose 8.9 trillion due to disengagement of the workforce. So as a leader in the organization, how do you keep your employees engaged in order to grow the organization? That's why we have Tom Dewey, my mentor and an amazing leader who is a Chief Corporate Operations Officer for Medical Mutual. He oversees key functions, including claims, customer service, strategic initiatives for a $4.5 billion payer. He has a diverse background encompassing finance, operations, and human resources. He previously held roles such as Chief People Officer and Head of Strategy, and he was a senior manager at Ernst & Young, advising clients across various industries. He's also actively involved in the Cleveland community, serving on several boards, the Cleveland Public Library Foundation, and College Now. He's also my mentor. So let's get all that formality out of the way. Tom has been my mentor for almost 8 to 9 years, somewhere around that, since 2017, formally 2017. And it's been great to have him on my professional journey. He was here for season 1 as well. But before we dive into all of that, welcome to the studio, Tom.
Thanks. Great to be here. Studio's wonderful.
Thank you. It looked different from the last time that you were here.
It made some good changes.
Thanks. I'm glad you noticed. So, Tom, we're just going to go through some personal professional updates. But before we dive into that, because we might have some returning listeners, but we might have some new faces. So let's do some introductions.
Okay.
Yeah. So please tell the audience about you. You can bring it back to the professional, personal, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
No, appreciate being here. And you gave a little bit of the background. So, professionally, I spent 13 years at Ernst & Young, then moved over to Medical Mutual about 13 years ago. So I'm getting old.
26
I think
years.
that's what that's telling me. But it's been a great journey, and all along I've just met a lot of great people, work with, and we cross paths at Medical Mutual. It's a great place to work. A lot of great people just really trying to do the right things for the community and for our members.
Yeah.
And so it's nice when you come to work at a place with a mission each day that you can kind of wrap your arms around and truly appreciate. And so, one of the nice things, and you alluded to, I've had a lot of different experiences, growing up as an accountant and then coming to Medical Mutual in finance and becoming chief people officer. That's something I get asked a lot about. And it's one of those things that some people maybe saw more in me than I saw in myself. And so I appreciate that. I've had a couple of great mentors at Medical Mutual and just owe everything to them. You talked about our relationship, and I really haven't done that much for you, but it's been really fun to see, your career blossom over 8 to 9 years. It's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
And so, I've just had great experiences. You talked about helping to lead strategy. Now I lead operations for us, and we have a couple subsidiaries who are kind of non-health insurance or non-core health insurance, and those report up to me as well. So it's fun, and I've had a lot of opportunities to do fun things. It's hard to accomplish anything from a professional standpoint without a solid foundation, and just been very fortunate in my personal life. And I've been married 22 years.
Nice.
Maybe more than that. Maybe this will be 23 years coming up later this year. We have 3 daughters. Our second one just graduated high school. She's off to Ohio State to join our oldest daughter.
Amazing. And you're repping Ohio State.
I'm repping Ohio State. So we just have one left at home. But it's unbelievable how fast it goes. And, when you say that we've been together, in this relationship 8 to 9 years, that's unbelievable. But, when you look back at that, at how much you've grown.
Oh, yeah.
And you became a citizen over the course of that time. And, we've talked about it before. I think that was one of the most meaningful things I've ever seen is, people who want to come into this country and call it home. And so I just appreciate seeing that and seeing all you've done here,
the American dream.
Your 9 to 5, the American dream.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And, I always say people are my life's greatest assets. I found that at every turn, I've been able to lean on people more than my own strength. Without people, there's no strategy, or you are not able to push strategy forward. And so I'm especially glad for this conversation, and my listeners are aware of this because they've been listening, I hope, of my professional and personal updates. On the personal front, I've been working on a project that's groundbreaking for my organization, but also groundbreaking for the real estate industry, or property management industry. It's called fee transparency. It's new. We have to do it, and nobody knew how to do it. And so it fell in my lap, and so I've been running with it, and we've gotten to the point where we made great strides in the last few weeks. Specifically, was able to pull fees together and create a dashboard with the data science team, and presented that yesterday, and I'm so excited for the feedback that we've gotten. We've done some test presentations with some business people just to get their reaction and thoughts about the dashboard, and really love it. And personal side, I've been doing my kitchen, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. So something new that we're doing in this season that we didn't do in the last season, because we're doing this thing called a what would you do scenario. So I like to ask my guests, like, what would they do in a scenario? And the scenario that we have today is something around how external factors could have ripple effects that would force you to evaluate your teams, your strategy, and just a lot of things. So I'm going to go dive right into it, and then that would segue us into the conversation today.
Perfect.
Awesome. So here's this scenario. For listeners, this is completely fictitious. So imagine this, it's late 2026, we're in 2025 now. A new federal policy has just been enacted. Let's say it's an unexpected shift towards a single payer system or a dramatic change in how preventive care is funded and delivered. Simultaneously, a major unexpected economic downturn hits, perhaps a global supply chain collapse, creating several inflationary pressure and a new highly advanced AI competitor enters the market, the health insurance market, promising hyper-personalized plans at half the current cost. As COO, you're looking at your teams. Some are anxious about their jobs, others are struggling with new AI tools, and operations are starting to creak under the pressure of needing to rapidly reconfigure products and processes. In that moment, facing these simultaneous massive ripple effects, a policy shock, an economic crisis, and a disruptive tech competitor, what are your absolute first three priorities to keep your people engaged and your operations from derailing? And how do you communicate that vision and urgency and organization to an organization that might feel like it's been hit by a perfect storm? Now, before you answer this question, I want to.
There's a lot there, Elizabeth.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and we can take it one section at a time.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. So, when this question was put together, looking at the single payer system and all these dramatic changes, before this, I've had more insight into what a single payer system would look like with a friend that's going through some health challenges in the UK. And it's giving me a different perspective into the single payer system and how that could be a pro or a con. So I'm very interested to hear how you respond to this question.
Well, I want to hear your perspective on UK and single payer.
Single payer. I don't think it works. I think it's a great thing when you have a single payer system. It's easier as far as implementation. You understand how doctor system. There's no external competitors like health insurance company maybe being the one to drive how care is provided. So that's where a pro is, because you want the health professionals being the ones to drive how the healthcare is provided, patient care, basically. However, when you have a single payer system that is run and governed by the government, I think it cracks under pressure. When you have pressure of understaffed hospital system, you have the ratio for the doctor to the patient is not equitable, and maybe because it's funded by the government, you're not able to equitably pay your doctors and your caregiver what they think they should be paying, considering the cost of education is high for that profession. And so you're fighting a losing battle. With the UK, for instance, every time that I've gone there, I feel like the healthcare professionals are protesting. Literally, they're in the streets protesting. They're protesting their pay because they're not being paid half as much as the US doctors are being paid, and they're overworked. And then on the patient side, patients are waiting months, almost years, for a service that's required. In the case of my friend, waiting for a treatment that they should have had yesterday, and having to then go seek out external insurance, which is not even the norm. It allowed me to look at insurance from a different lens, in that I'm glad that I have the option. It would be nice if there was the government option and also the private option, like we do here in the US, where if you have a job, your employer probably provides health insurance care for you. So it's not an easy scenario or easy challenge even to solve, even when you think about, okay, so what does that mean? It's not single payer, it's not health insurance. So where's the middle ground?
It's a complicated topic.
Yeah.
And it's one I think you hear a lot about over here, single payer system. And, there, to your point, there are varying degrees of what that can mean. But I think one thing most Americans probably agree about is that the government is not a well-run or efficient operation. And so getting them involved as being the sole driver of healthcare, I don't know that Americans are ready to sign up for that.
Absolutely not.
But at the same time, something is wrong with the American healthcare system from the standpoint of how much money we spend, how big a portion of our economy it is, and some of our health outcomes. I mean, we're the richest country in the world. We should have the best health outcomes in the world, and we don't.
Yes.
So it's complicated. Don't have answers, but typically what I hear when people talk about single payer is kind of that experience that you're relaying.
Yeah. It's not the best, to be honest, but I do know that America is such a rich country to be able to figure it out. We have at least enough resources to be able to put it into it. Like organizations hire these consulting firms to figure out the answer to these types of issues. Like, we need that at that level. Okay. But then all of that is driven by political, what's the word I'm looking for here? Interests, right? So if the current political party is not interested in that, it doesn't get funded. If they are, then it gets funded. So I think it's unfortunately we're playing a game of chess with people's lives. Yeah. But
to totally understand.
Yeah. Back to your scenario.
Can we take this one step at a time?
Let's take it one step at a time. Okay. So should we take the first part where, obviously we new policies enacted to shift towards single payer system, which dramatically changes how preventive care is funded or delivered. And then there's that simultaneous economic downturn. So think COVID, let's use COVID as that example, creates a supply chain collapse. And so you have that, but then we're in the age of AI and there's technology and everybody, like we said, is trying to figure out what's the best way to administer care. So
I think you said something interesting too there, kind of in your lead in is people get worried about their jobs.
Yeah.
And, that's just natural human nature. And so, I don't know what the best way. And one nice thing about working, in a corporate environment is you got a lot of friends who are there to help you kind of work your way through things.
Yeah.
But, communicating open and honestly with employees about where you are, I think is one of those things that just, it comes back to it. Sometimes it's uncomfortable because you have to communicate like, hey, things are uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. There are a lot of complicated things going on in the world. And certainly in the scenario you outlined, a lot of difficult things as it relates to healthcare and the direct stuff we're involved in. But communicating, acknowledging fears, and that's a part. The second thing I think is listen. You really have to listen to what your employees are saying, what they're thinking, how they're feeling. And oftentimes employees have the answers. I think that's the one thing that, when you're an executive, sometimes you kind of feel like you're expected to have all the answers, or people are looking at you as one that should have all the answers. That's just not reality. It's oftentimes the people who are on the front lines seeing things directly who have more of the answers, but leaders need to be able to listen, willing to listen. Sometimes they are and sometimes they're not.
Yeah. I always say, you hire smart people. Yeah. Let them be smart.
I couldn't agree more. I learned early in my career, fortunately early, that if you're not surrounded by good people, you're going to fail. And that's the truth. And I've never understood why people are willing to hire people who are anything but the best. I just do not understand that mentality. Right. It makes no sense to me.
It's a waste of investment. One thing I do say about my manager is that she does a great job of pulling everybody to the forefront. If they ask her a question, she's like, oh, Elizabeth is someone that works on it, or this person is the one who works on it. They're closer to it than I am, and they'll be able to answer you. Like, immediately gives you the spotlight to be able to talk about it while she just maintains tackling and blocking.
Yeah.
And which allows for our team to be more effective than it would be under circumstances.
That's a great leadership characteristic.
Yeah.
Like, hire good people, listen to them, let them do the talking. It empowers them. I mean, you don't have to have all those answers. So
Exactly.
it sounds like you're
Takes the pressure off.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I think as we talk about your scenario, communicating open and honestly with the employees and then listening to your employees, they're there to help. Like, I think about our company at Medical Mutual and you as a former employee now, like, people there want that company to succeed. They are there to do the right thing. Yeah. And so, people aren't there, for other motives. Everyone has to make a living, but people are there because they genuinely love the place.
Right. Yeah, and that's how it should be. That's because right. Medical Mutual has built a culture, that cares for its people.
Yeah, so that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I was thinking about as you're kind of walking through the scenario is sometimes when you're in a fight like that, you just got to grind through it. And there's, that just no other way through it other than to just grind it out sometimes. And you got to have resilience. And I talk about that a lot in terms of what's going to make somebody successful in their career. It's resilience because it's not always good. And God forbid we ever face a scenario like you just walked through where you got kind of multiple things coming at you at once. It's hard. The only way through that is to stay resilient and keep grinding.
COVID on its own we're still dealing with it.
We are.
The only other thing that I realize, as I'm thinking through the scenario as well is like, it's a good thing if a new competitor comes into the market. Great. You have the answers. Awesome. The thing is, they're not going to be able to manage everybody. So be the one to get to market and we're going to learn. I think about it as like the Apple, Samsung tech war that's always going on. Apple does the innovation and Samsung is quick to jump on it, although Samsung users would disagree with that claim. I'm not here to talk about Samsung or Apple. I'm just using it as an example. They do the innovation and they're always chasing each other as to the first person to do something. But it doesn't mean the other one is not learning quickly or maybe even poaching employees to come and teach them some of that technology and help them with their architecture. So if this new company won't be able to monopolize the market, they're just the first. Tesla was one of the first, if not first, I'm not sure, to roll out EV vehicles. And guess what? Most vehicles now have EV option in their range of offerings. So you're just the first to the market. It does not mean you're going to be the only one in the market.
Yeah, I was reading an article this week about Tesla. It was very interesting. They really are the ones who created that market.
Yeah.
As you said. But if you go over to China today, a lot of these Chinese EV makers are just pulling far ahead. And so you have the Tesla employees in China calling back the headquarters in Texas saying, hey, we need to do this. We're falling behind. So your point about competition is spot on. Without competition,
there's no innovation.
There's no innovation.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
That's what happened to GE back in the day.
Yeah, that's right.
We talked about as far as motivating the employees, because that's the biggest part, right? You have to keep the employees motivated to want to push through, to want to be resilient enough to say, okay, you know what, let's buckle down. And as a leadership team, you've communicated, these are the challenges. There's a new competitor in town. Government has rolled out a new policy. We are trying to figure out what to do. Maybe we're going to build a task force to figure this out. Let's understand, okay, what's our current state? What's our gap? How do we get to that, where that competitor is, or even beyond there? So put your star people together and, have all the other people ensure that is a priority item. I mean, if you need to hire contractors to carry on day-to-day activities, yeah, we'll do what we can to be able to keep up pace with a pace of change, and at least that's what I would do. But you know me, I'm in strategy and operations, so I'm already thinking solution.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Hire me already.
Yeah, guarantee you're going to find a better solution when you're, listening to employees, getting a lot of input. Maybe you end up back at the place you thought you were when you started.
Exactly.
But kind of just going through that process certainly makes you stronger.
Yeah, and you won't know if you don't try.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, going back to the conversation again, listeners, we're talking about leading through the tides, navigating people and operations amidst health insurance shifting sands. Obviously, Tom started his career in the numbers on the number sides of things, and now he's on the people and the strategy side, and we talked about his career journey and how he started with EY, and now he went to leading people in culture, overseeing strategy, and now corporate operations. I think it's a full circle career, and you've landed in a good place.
Yeah.
My question to you is, how have these diverse experiences uniquely prepared you to lead a major health insurance company through constant market shifts that we're witnessing today?
Yeah, I think the one thing, and we talked about it earlier a little bit, is realizing very early in my career that if you're not surrounded with the best people, none of it matters. And if you look at all my different experiences from working in an accounting firm and then in the corporate environment, working in finance and HR and strategy and operations, you're only as good as the people you have, because no matter what you're doing, you can't do it all by yourself. And Ernst& Young, they had 200,000 employees when I was there, and so you're working in a large organization, but the one thing about that place is they hired the best, or what they thought they were the best in the field. And so you learn pretty early on that the talent, you're only going to win through talent. And then you come over into HR at Medical Mutual, and it's the same thing. Like, we sat down and went through and kind of developed an HR strategy when I was in that role, and it was attract and retain the best people. Because if you attract and retain the best, you're going to be just fine. And so that was the strategy there. And then I come over into the operations world, and probably a third of our employees work in operations or related
Operations related
roles,
functions. Yeah.
functions, exactly. So it's all people.
Yeah.
And we don't make anything. We answer telephone calls, we pay claims, and we make sure that our members are able to get the services they need on time.
Yeah.
But it's all the people doing it.
Yes.
And so that's at least for me, the common link. And I've never worked in a manufacturing environment. I've had clients in manufacturing world, and it's a little different because you have machines doing things. There's still people doing the thinking behind it. And so that's for
the
me.
Machines did not create themselves.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, I it's so interesting that you say that, because sometime this week I was having this moment as I was going through my day. I was responding to an email, which is pretty much what my work is about. I'm either directing or redirecting or is trying to solve somebody's problem. And I thought to myself, wow, can you imagine if I was a crappy employee and how many of these situations would go unresolved? And I was just thinking about, oh, wow. So that ties back to our vendors becoming unhappy with us. Oh, that could lead to reputational damage if somebody took us to the news. Oh, wow. If reputational damage occurs, that could impact investors. Oh, wow. If our investors don't invest in the funds, then
you've got no job.
I just had that moment. I don't know why I was thinking that. So, because I had a leader once, I used to say we are fiduciaries of these investment vehicles. And so we need to work as though it's our money on the line. And so I try to explain it to my colleagues that, imagine if that was your money that was invested in that building. How would you treat it? How would you manage it? And going back to what you said about communication, I think it's one thing that I've stressed. We recently went through our engagement survey, and so one of those things is what I stress is that it's important for leadership to explain our business model. It would impact how engaged or disengaged people are, because they understand how their responsibilities translates into impact for the business.
And that's ultimately what people want, right? Is to feel like they're making a contribution, they're making an impact, they understand the mission of where the company's going. So you're spot on with that.
Yeah. Going back into what we're talking about this season, we're talking about ripple effects, and especially interested in, ripple effects from your perspective, or at least what you think are significant ripple effects in the health insurance world today. Economic ripples, technological advancement ripples, AI ripples, that's a big one today. Evolving consumer behavior as a ripple effect. What are these different ripples that you're seeing? How are you identifying what's the most important for you to focus on?
Yeah, all those are happening, in the health payer space and in the healthcare space. I mean, you look no further than what's going on in Washington, and recently passed the big beautiful bill, and luckily for our organization, at least in the near term, it's not a huge impact.
Yeah.
But you think about across the spectrum. We live in Cleveland, Ohio, which is a great healthcare, kind of
Right.
capital or one of the healthcare capitals of the U.S. It's certainly going to be felt, in our community, not only by the citizens but by the enterprises delivering care. And so you've always got kind of government intervention in healthcare, which you talked about single payer system and what happens overseas. It doesn't mean that we're not immune to, just government intervention in our world. And so you just have to live with that. At the same time, to the point you made, technology. I mean, I've never seen in my career technology moving as quickly as it is.
Yes.
This AI stuff, which 2.5 years ago I had never heard of, and then pick up Chat GPT and use that to now seeing commercial applications, things that you can do in business and actually, we're using it in our business, and there are a lot of applications for it.
Are you using Pilot?
Copilot?
Copilot?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We're using that and, some other things on an even bigger scale. And
Yeah.
at the same time, you got to worry, how are people using it? Are they using it in the right way? So,
Ethically.
exactly.
Yeah.
Are we using it in an ethical way? You've got people who worry, I think it was the head of Ford recently said that 50% of white collar workers are going to lose their jobs to AI. Can't remember over what time period he said that, but people are worried about their job. And that's natural too. And I guess in my experience, like when the internet came around, we all became a heck of a lot more efficient than we used to be. It doesn't mean jobs are going to go away.
That's always my gut reaction. Like, I wish people would stop the fear mongering.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And keep saying, oh, people are going to lose their jobs. I was talking about it 2 episodes ago. I said, yes, you're going to lose your current job, but it creates another type of role for you. Like, we've always had receptionists. We still do have receptionists.
Yeah.
It's just the way receptionists operate now, completely different. They don't have to carry this big binder looking at your calendars. They can just look at your team's Outlook. Boom. They know what your availability. They can cross across another leader in the organization, set up your meeting in like 2 minutes instead of phone tagging and calling across. It just makes us more efficient. And this is something I'm deeply passionate about because I love technology. And I've been saying to people in my lifetime, we went from using the dial phone to a cell phone that operates and pulls data from across the world in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
The information at our fingertips. And it just creates more and more opportunities for us to figure out, okay, how can we operate differently?
I feel the same way as you do. Like, jobs are not going away. Certain jobs may go away. There will be other jobs.
Yeah.
Better jobs. Raise the standard of living.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fine, but you have to understand that people are worried. Not everyone's got that forward-looking view that you have.
Yeah.
And so we need to help them understand.
Of course. And that's why I'm like, I wish people would focus on that more as opposed to, oh, you're going to lose your job. Like, that doesn't achieve anything really. And it demotivates people even further as opposed to motivating them.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to hold ourselves back so we can keep all the same jobs that we have today for forever in time, we're not going to move forward as a world.
So, I'm surprised. Was that Ford Motors person?
Ford Motors. Yeah.
I'm surprised they said that, considering the decision that happened in the 60s that led to more Japanese vehicles in the U.S. I'm surprised they still have that mindset. Just now I mentioned employee survey. That's a big one today because, like you said, hearing the voice of the employee is a big driver in how you operate the organization, whether it's good, whether it's bad. And, looking at the human element of things is always understanding that people are the heart of any successful organization, like we've been talking about. So let's take a scenario where you've just reviewed the employee survey for the year and you're thinking, what do we do about these results? Oh, wow, these results are amazing. What are you doing? Or at least what are some things that you're tapping into to maintain high levels of employee engagement, or in scenarios where it's low, low engagement, how are you boosting morale to get them to that high level?
I do think that's one of the most important tools that companies have. And, I don't know how many companies, do a survey annually, but I think it's so important. But the magic is not just in doing that survey and having people take the survey and fill it out. To me, the magic is in the conversations that happen afterward.
Yeah.
And I think our place has done a pretty good job of really requiring that leaders sit down with their people, and go through survey results. How did we do? Go through comments, go through the verbatim comments that come through. And oftentimes, you'll see where you need to improve. People are surprisingly willing most of the time. I mean, there's always people who are scared of retribution, and those are the instances where we need to find out what kind of leader is stifling that, and make sure that doesn't happen. And frankly, at our place, it doesn't happen very often. But the magic is in having those conversations and following up and figuring out action plans. And that's really important, because then people feel listened to. If you don't do that, people will, stop filling out the survey, stop caring, it'll become a disengagement survey rather than an engagement survey.
Right.
But I think it's so important. So, Elizabeth, I mean, whether it's you get good remarks, and that's fine. You still got to keep digging. Doesn't mean you don't have the conversation, because you can always get better.
Exactly.
You don't want to be average ever. Average is a very bad place to be.
Yeah.
And when you don't get the results you want, all too oftentimes leaders come in and say, "Oh, well, who said that?" I'm trying to figure out who said it. It doesn't matter who said it.
You know what? That's where I said it.
Yeah.
Like, am I lying?
I love it. You just own it. I mean,
because I know at the back of it, they can probably maybe HR can see who wrote it. Like, duh. They're gonna know if they dig far enough. And so if I was comfortable enough to write it, I'm going to own it and say, yes.
You may be unique in that, though. Like,
that is true.
Maybe you're not totally unique, but a lot of people maybe aren't willing, or they fear retribution. From speaking up like
you're right about that, because I'm not gonna share details, because I'm sure that person is going to be listening. I was coaching my friend through results of something, and she shared with me just a comment that was made that was like not well received, understandably. So there was this back and forth, and then on top of that, the engagement results came out, and they're having conversations about it, and nobody wants to come out and say anything. But then there's clear examples of things that went wrong, that if leadership had listened or trusted the people they hired, those things would not have happened, despite their employees raising those issues so many times and the risks involved. And so this person was wondering how to address it, because they're not going to say anything. And I said, actually, I would say something. And I said, here's what I would say. Your intention is not to be rude or beat them down. We're here to solve the problem and provide insight into how this can be better in the future. And so here's what I would say, but they were still not comfortable having to go back and do that, because they feared retribution. They feared what would happen. And I hated that for them, in that, they didn't feel comfortable that they could still have that conversation. I mean, it's glaring, this example. I said I would call it out. I did. And I told her, I said, worst thing they're going to do is to lose. And I said, well, I have an emergency fund. I've been looking for a break anyway. I'm like, goodbye. I'm going to South America.
There's so much to unpack there, from the standpoint of like keeping your finances in a position where you can, like if you're in a place where you need to, want to leave, need to leave, feel compelled to leave, that you can. But also, it's oftentimes hard to change your leaders. Like, there's always so much you can do. You can be honest if they're not willing to receive feedback. Like, you've done all you can. But I think, Elizabeth, as leaders, we can change ourselves, and make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position, we're putting our people in a position where they can come be honest to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's the thing that we need to challenge ourselves, is create an environment where people are comfortable coming to tell us what's wrong, and what we can do better. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. We've talked about people and the human element, and, tying back to even our scenario, really, it requires that when market shifts happen, you need to innovate. You need to shift. So when you have strained resources, how do you innovate?
Yeah.
How do you push people to do more if they feel like they don't have the resources to do that?
I think that's a really good question and a hard one because it's hard to ask people to do more sometimes. When people are working long hours as it is, just trying to keep the lights on, just trying to serve members or serve customers, to say, hey, I need a little more out of you. I think that's difficult.
Yeah.
One thing that we're trying and having some success on is the whole concept of continuous improvement and Kaizen. But it's not a new scenario or a new practice. It's one that's been used in the manufacturing and auto industry for a long time, but bringing it to more service based industries. And for us, really the goal there is to make people more or make jobs more efficient, processes more efficient. Because and the goal is not to get rid of people, like to do things more efficiently so you can remove people. The goal is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Allow people the time to spend their time on things that actually move the business forward and innovate. So instead of spending 4 hours a week or 8 hours a week on something that adds no value, it's just moving data from one place to another. Take that time and invest it in moving the business forward, innovating. It makes people much more happy, to do things efficiently and well and take the mundane out of their job. You just free up people's time so that they can spend it in better places.
Watch them work.
Watch them work. Watch them go. Completely agree.
Yeah, no, I constantly think one of the things that I say about is my challenge. We just implemented a new tool, and I think about that tool and some of the challenges that it posed, and how I had to spend hours troubleshooting one very simple task. And it's one of the things that I shared is that I wish that would go away so I can actually spend time on more strategic things because I'm forced to be tactical sometimes. And so when you remove the tactical things, which is why technology is important and AI is important, it allows you to actually use your brain for what your brain should be used for, is in thinking about different ways to do things, to problem solve, because AI won't problem solve for you. Like I always say, technology does not move itself. It's learning from human behavior. It's learning from solutions that people have loaded into the World Wide Web, and it's taking all of those innovations to present ideas.
I like the way you said that, 'cause, like, you think about your company didn't hire you to, be doing tactical things to, figuring out mundane problems. They hired you because of your brain.
Yeah.
And, the more they can get out of that, the better off the organization's going to be. And the more fulfilled you will feel.
Exactly. I'll feel better about asking for more money too.
That's right.
I want to talk about future, because we've talked about the now, we've talked about the past, we've talked about the current state and what we could be doing differently. I want to talk about emerging trends and ripple effects. What ripple effects or emerging trends do you foresee having the most profound impact on the health insurance industry and its workforce? Look 3 years ahead, especially because 5 years can be long.
Yeah, 5 years is a long time. And I hate to keep coming back to this, Elizabeth, but AI, just being as transformative as it is, that is absolutely going to transform, I think, our operation in the next 3 years. And the rate at which it's moving, it's hard to even maybe wrap your head around, how much more quickly it's going to move and hopefully make things much more efficient. And I think that's one thing. You look at our healthcare system and how much money we spend on it. As a country, we can do things more efficiently, and hopefully technology helps that. Because the communication links between customers or the people receiving services, the hospitals that's providing it,
Significantly reduced.
the people paying it, there's a lot of different cooks in the kitchen as it relates to the healthcare space. We have to get more efficient. And probably a lot of businesses feel that way. I think healthcare is more complicated than a lot of them, but just because you have different people paying for services than people receiving it. So there is so much room for improvement, and I think AI is going to change a lot of that. You work at an organization that's built on trying to, maximize value for shareholders and investors. There's a ton of money going into the healthcare space and driving innovation and technology. So it's a fun time to kind of be alive and be in a career, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I talked about the one episode that we did. It's a physician that has now moved into become a founder. She now has her own telemedicine practice. We talked about, the why she moved there, and she realized like there's just a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to her practicing medicine here. But now in telemedicine, she's able to have that direct one-on-one relationships with her patient without all the other factors in the middle. And the technologies that she's using helps her achieve that. She has a technology that scribes while she's talking to the patient, so she doesn't have to do that. It's taking her notes for her, so she doesn't have to have a nurse in the room, or even maybe have to pay for my chart license. I mean, maybe she has to, but there's a lot of things hurdles that it has removed from her ability to be there for her patients directly. And so she's able to do that. And then it's tied to like a direct invoicing system that is auto invoices and things. Like she's really been able to transform all of that instead of having to figure out, oh, which ICD code should we apply to this service? Like we know what service they came in for. Boom, apply, send the invoice. And so a lot of these transformative things definitely would eliminate some of these back end work. And I think risk adjustment, even like imagine if AI is going in there reading the charts and like pulling all the codes and submitting it directly. Imagine how great that would be.
And that's really what it should be.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have people on multiple sides of the healthcare equation doing the same thing. Going through 400 pages of document. Like that's just completely
you never even get it right.
You never get it right.
Your eyes just start to glaze over. So
yeah, that's right. We know human beings prone to error.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. AI is definitely here to stay and to transform. I
love that scenario too, because you think about in the US, we've got a doctor shortage. We don't need doctors spending time on things that aren't adding value to patients.
Exactly.
That's not why they went into practice.
Yes.
And that doesn't help people get better.
Yeah.
Let doctors
be
practice.
Doctors.
Let doctors be doctors.
Yes. Let doctors doctor. I absolutely agree with that. And I hope that it definitely, even that small shift would create a different experience in the future. For aspiring leaders, because we need to close this episode. While this conversation has been good, I want our listeners to be able to go back and reflect now. For those aspiring leaders that are listening to us and they want to effectively navigate turbulent times, what's one piece of practical advice that you would offer regarding leadership resilience, which you touched on, and ensuring both operational continuity and employee well-being?
Yeah, it's always great being with you. I think, you said it there, and we talked about it earlier. Resilience, I think, is so important to any career. And that's one thing as I look, worked with a lot of executives and senior leaders over the course of my career, whether it was prior to my current employer or at my current employer. One common thread I see is resilience.
Yeah.
And things don't always go well and typically don't go well.
Right.
But it's that ability to kind of pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back to it. And then I always, talk about my 3 keys to a career is working hard, be nice, and have a positive attitude. And resilience plays back into that too, because, when you're down and things are tough, it's easy to kind of put that frown on your face or certainly not have a smile on your face.
Right.
People don't want to be around people who are in a bad mood. Elizabeth, you know that. You want to be around people who are nice to each other, that have a positive attitude and who are willing to work hard, for the cause. So that's what I always come back to. I know it's pretty basic, but the older I get, the more I think that, there's something there.
I always say start basic and build on that.
I like that.
It all comes down back to basics, okay?
Blocking and tackling in football, back to basics.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's whatever industry you're in. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. I think as humans, we tend to overcomplicate things, but sometimes easy is the way to go.
Yeah.
Now, this has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being here. I always learn something new, and I feel like we have such a great conversation for the people to be able to take back and reflect on their leadership style, or even their employee style, the way they work in the organization and how they communicate up to the leaders, because leaders want to hear your voice. They want to know what you think. And they hired you for your smarts. So you have to trust your gut that they won't just fire you indiscriminately, of course, but keep your documentations intact. A lot of things that I've learned here is like attract and retain the best people. It's always about the people. Listen, just listen. People want to be heard, and so listen to them. Innovation through continuous improvement is the way to go. You can't achieve too much. Start small, go back to basics, and think, what can I do? Small changes, big impacts. Every day it amounts to something big. When you measure it over time, you don't even realize how far you've come until you look back and realize, wow, we've done a lot. So focus on the small impact. What can I do today? Listeners, you've heard it. Resilience is the most important thing. Work hard, be nice, and have a positive attitude. Remember, you are the architect of your journey, and really, you can carve whatever path that you want for yourself just by working hard, being nice, and maintaining a positive attitude. Till next time, remember you can listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and watch the visuals on YouTube as well. And we're also on High Art Radio. Shout out to all our listeners from all over the world. We are in about 10 countries now. Amazing thing. I'm so excited for the impact that we're making, even with this from this small place. Follow us on all social media platforms at the 9 to 5 Blueprint on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere we're at the 9 to 5 Blueprint. See you on the next 9 to 5 and everything in between. Listen, follow, check out our website. Have a great day.